You are watching Xirtus.
So we're going to talk about Ibogaine.
Yeah, okay. I mean,
You're
that's
gonna have
been
to
up a
lead
lot. There's
around.
actually some Mormons that reach out to me every once in a while, and one said like they were like, they had a pornography addiction growing up, and they're like, that's not a drug addiction, but for them it's a big deal. They want to like do Ibogaine to get rid of that.
Does it work?
I mean,
Yeah.
probably.
Yeah, in most cases.
I feel like you don't need Ibogaine to get over pornography, but I don't know you.
It's the whole premise of Ibogaine is like the antithesis of my entire lifestyle, I guess. Like I don't want to have less addictions. I'm trying to find more that I can just like keep at bay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it's an anti-drug, right? It like cuts drugs off and it makes you want to do them less.
It rewires your brain, they say. I don't know if that's true, but
it scans your body. Like I've talked to like, so there's a lot of people who would be join like panel discussions with MAPS that had gone to Mexico to do it with like a group, who had like extreme heroin addiction, and they broke their addiction. They're done with heroin. And like and one man that I talked to, he was like I still get the same craving that I've always gotten for the thing. He's like, it never went away. This guy was like a taxi driver in Chicago who ended up his arm, he had like that thing happen that's like kind of close to what is in Requiem for a Dream, where he gets this like gnarly like, if you've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, you got to start in between your toes.
He had that, and his arm was curling in, and he got to the point that he could no longer drive a cab because he couldn't hold the freaking wheel properly. Like he was just, and then so he healed. He did Ibogaine, in Mexico,
and the arm bounced back.
Yeah, he said during the session it straightened out. Like he couldn't straighten it for like the long, it was getting progressively worse and worse. His description of it, this guy I did ayahuasca with like 7 times. This dude, so basically he was like, it got to a point where he could feel like a pressure building in the point, like, so when it got to that point in his arm where the restrictions started, he could feel energy like welling up and increasing in intensity until it just like burst forward like the levee broke, and his arm just went and like straightened out, and then never went back to what it was. Like he could
not on camera though.
On camera, but I mean, this is the thing, is that there's so many accounts of
bone. He's talking about like it's like when you get like a stroke and you can't, you basically, because opiates can electrocute your nervous system so much that you don't even send responses anymore. So here's something that's making like perhaps new routes to get the electrical impulses to that part of the body, but you can basically make paralyze parts of your muscle and your body just from destroying the nervous system.
Could the opposite happen, where you go to take Ibogaine, you're totally fine, and you feel the energy going through your arm, and all of a sudden it's like, and like now you can't move your arm after you took Ibogaine?
It's a natural intelligence. It's been around for centuries. People have been using it for centuries. It's like when people are discussing like substance use and they're treating it, that sometimes people treat it like new drugs, pharmaceuticals and stuff, and they'll say, oh, this is what we know. It's like, dude, like you have substances out there. Ayahuasca is one of them too, where you're like, dude, talk about like a long-winded natural.
Ayahuasca is weird because it's like it requires plants that are from like 500 or 1,000 miles away from each other. So the fact that they were able to figure out to put these two things together that did not grow with each other, it's pretty interesting that this.
They say that they got it from watching the way the animals interacted with the substances, supposedly, but I don't really know for sure. All I'm saying is that like I've been waiting for this for 20 freaking years. So when people are like reacting to like, oh, this substance is supposed to help addiction, I'm like, as far as I know, from what I've gathered from people on MAPS panels and personal friends of mine that like have had experiences with this is like the #1 substance known to humanity to help break an addiction, but also it's not uncommon when people take it, this is crazy, to die instantly. But why is that? because it's true. So somebody described to me how somebody sitting in the circle with them or whatever, when they were doing this in Mexico, they just died in front of them. And they were like, this person though was at like they had pushed their body so far with heroin addiction, like shooting up, like not like they were smoking opium or something. They'd gotten themselves to that point that this is really an intense substance. So like it rocks your system. So, but at the same time, like people know the risk that they're getting into when they go to take it.
It's pretty funny when people who do like heroin say, "Whoa, Ibogaine's dangerous." I don't
right.
Right. Could you just be so like not have any heroin addiction, take Ibogaine and just die? Is it like a heart thing, or
I imagine you'd have a heart attack from coffee? So
yeah, I mean, you could drown in a spoonful of water. I'm just saying, like that there is a massive variable in looking at those statistics because so many of the people that take it are already at death's door, basically. So you're like, this is a last resort for a lot of people. They're like, I've tried everything. What is this? And then they're also going to Mexico, where they're just like, who knows everything that's affecting their own immune system and everything if they're not, acclimated to everything else.
And this is like not, is it euphoric or hallucinogenic at all?
It's its own thing. So like you could argue that it's like a psychedelic, but like same thing with ayahuasca. Like if you compare ayahuasca to what most people associate with psychedelics, like mushrooms or LSD, it's like it's a world apart. It's its own thing.
When you say ayahuasca, you mean like DMT? If you just had like DMT?
Yeah,
well, ayahuasca has an entire experience to it. Like you can smoke DMT and you might not like purge, vomit, go through all these other aspects of it.
Oh, that sounds horrible. Who'd want to miss all that?
Do you like to? Yeah, but like, do you think that taking synthetic THC cannabis spice in the military, is that the same as smoking pot? No, right?
Well, all these that's a false equivalence. I would say that if you had actual THC isolate mixed with all the different terpenes and everything, not like one of the fake
terpenes and everything else you'd have to add to it. Ibogaine, DMT versus ayahuasca is probably like that. Like just DMT by itself, super powerful, strong drug. If you take spice, it's powerful, strong drug. It doesn't feel the same or have the same body feeling as having.
I almost feel offended on behalf of DMT that you're comparing it to spice, which is
I get that, but like DMT is more like spice than it is not.
No way, because you can take actual cannabis and get THC isolate from it, right? And then you can get mimosa bark and then extract DMT directly from mimosa bark, right?
Just having DMT is a very different experience than having ayahuasca.
Very different.
Yeah, of course. I wouldn't doubt that.
Okay,
and there's a more intense,
but I don't know if that means it's better.
There's a more reverent experience you get from ayahuasca than you get from DMT. DMT can scare you and tell you, dude, you probably shouldn't have come at me so simply. Like you should have probably been more reverent. You might get that experience after DMT, but ayahuasca won't let you enter irreverent. It just knocks you down.
I feel irreverence is just like smelling your own farts and thinking they smell great. Like when you feel like you have reverence for a drug.
No, I mean, like if you go into just a cat, like have you ever been? I mean, how do you explain this? Like you could be like hanging out with some people. They have a DMT pipe. You just passively like, oh hey, you grab it, you hit it. That can happen with DMT without any planning. You shouldn't maybe do that. But that's happening to people like us. And then you compare that to ayahuasca. No one's like, oh man, I accidentally just drank a liter of ayahuasca. Like DMT is so much more. It's too easy to just let it happen. Ayahuasca is something you have to be fully into, and it's more overwhelming because
I can tell you a bunch of examples to just that cuts through how not just how they're different, but like the significance of how they're different. So like if you're preparing for an ayahuasca ceremony, there's certain rules about your diet, and they're there for one main specific reason, which is that if you have a speck of mold, like if you're eating fruit that or nuts or something that may have had a tiny bit of mold, that's going to affect your experience and your purging and everything else. It can make you so nauseous, and it can be dangerous if you've had enough. So like people don't realize, because it usually doesn't just affect you if you eat a little bit of mold, like big deal. Like it's barely gonna be a blip on your system. But if you introduce ayahuasca, the nature of the purgative is to go in and like pull all of that out and get rid of it. So it's like it's a natural cleanser. My experience, and everyone I've talked to's experience who have done ayahuasca ceremonies, is that when it's pulling those toxins out of you, you can feel that is going deeper than just the mold. It's like, that's when you're like, you've got like psychic parasites or whatever you want to call that, like in your body, like there's shit that just needs to come out. And it's like when you're purging, you can feel like a building up an intensity of like projectile. But the thing with what I was saying about Ibogaine is that that's doing something similar, where it's scanning your body, but it's like it's weird because it knows what to do. And like, it's just like, it feels like there's something about this substance that's like here for this purpose. That's just like, we didn't have to manipulate it to get it to do this thing. It just knows what to do. And so if you don't have to be a heroin user to take it and experience the benefits when it comes to compulsive action, addictive tendencies, like, which is really like an aversion, right? Like if you like, it can be coming from different places. You could just be doing it even though you don't have an aversion. But for a lot of people, they feel uncomfortable in different ways. And so they look to something to either distract or to numb or to do something to get away from this feeling. Ibogaine like confronts you with that discomfort in such a way that there's an objectivity that surrounds, that envelopes that whatever issue it is that you're struggling with, and allows you to approach it in an objective way. That's why I was saying, like with this guy who like healed himself of his heroin addiction, he's like, I don't cease to get the cravings. The difference is that I have a radically, profoundly different relationship to those cravings, so that they don't mean that I have to run and do this thing, because he's like, this isn't actually going to solve it. And he knows that on like a physical level now. It's not just like, oh, he has a new set of beliefs or something. So like, you know, I prefer that to people being like, oh, well, if you just follow this philosophy, you know, or a religion or something, that this will help you. Yeah, it might help you, but it's not going to be doing the same thing. That's something that's going to go in.
I agree. It's like, here, read all the stuff that like Timothy Leary ever wrote, but don't ever do acid. You know what I mean? It would be sort of analog to that.
For whatever reason, like I laughed at that originally, but now I know a lot of people that never did acid that studied LSD, and they're doing better than you'd think.
Yeah, you know? Robert Forte lived with he lived with Albert Hoffman. He was very close with Timothy Leary in Switzerland, I believe, with Albert Hoffman. Like he lived with him for years. That guy didn't do LSD until he was like much older. And like he was like hanging out with all these people and hanging out with them while they were tripping. And he was just like, it didn't really interest me, is what he said. I mean, I don't know.
Gordon Watson too. That's his story.
You know, and then he takes it years later and he has this experience. It's like, oh, this is what they were talking about. But it's not going to be the same experience for him as it would have been had he taken it at the time with these people in the context, you know, what was happening. You know? Just
want to say, be careful about Ibogaine, because it does cause cardiotoxicity, and it might be bad for your heart. It might actually hurt your heart in certain ways.
Look, yeah. I want to rewind just a little bit though, because this is like a point of contention that I think maybe I just have, and either you can convince me otherwise, maybe I can convince you, but now I get the full panel. So yeah. I guess that I push back a little bit on this ritual aspect of ayahuasca, that you have to get sick and purge yourself and throw up. Because to me, it's almost just like saying that, hey, you can get drunk, but you're also going to have to like chug this liter of like wheatgrass or something, and you're going to have to go and like run a mile, and then you can get drunk. Or if you want to take,
you don't got to do nothing but be white and die.
Right. Well, here's the thing. I'm going to give you some pushback, which is that tell us you've never done ayahuasca without telling us you've never done ayahuasca is what that sounds like to me.
I've done ayahuasca in Peru. When I went for Machu Picchu, we went to like a little. I bought some weed off of some guy, and then there was like a little shop, and we didn't get the whole spiel of like you have to fast and you have to do all this shit. It was just like, hey, you buy a ticket now, and then you're basically reserving a spot in 2 days. And I went with an animator from Disney. It wasn't a great experience, and the whole time I was just thinking like, I'd rather be doing this with like a PlayStation in front of me and not some like bunch of people that are like crying and like barfing and throwing up. And shit.
Yeah, okay. I stand reflected. And the thing that drove me nuts every time I do ayahuasca, so people know, if they know
these
me,
group soul bonding
that I almost died on ayahuasca. I came within an hour of my life, according to the head doctor at our hospital here at Dominican. So
yeah, you had a stomach thing, right?
My intestine twisted shut below my stomach, and so I wasn't
on ayahuasca.
So I wasn't.
Jeez, I feel so lucky.
I wasn't able. I almost met the same fate as Heather O'Rourke. So, but it was because the elasticity.
Steven Spielberg almost raped you.
No, the elasticity of my intestine right below my stomach had scar tissue from ulcers that I had when I was like 10 years old. So I had like 15 stomach ulcers when I was a kid. It was really bad. And so I was diagnosed at Stanford with peptic disease and whatever. And I thought this won't affect me in the future because I'm better now, I'm healed. But the scar tissue changed the elasticity. So when it met with the purgative that 8th time that I took it, it just sealed completely shut. So I purged for 20 hours straight. I ended up spending 5 days in the emergency room while they debated cutting me open to see if it would straighten out. It was actually fentanyl that saved my life, technically. Because when they gave me the ID, I hyperventilated on the hospital floor. My fingers curled back. I was numb completely numb from head to toe. I couldn't feel a fucking thing. And it looked like something from like The Exorcist. Like I didn't even know it was humanly possible for my fingers to curl. Like I looked down at them and I was like, what the hell? How are they doing that?
And this was all from ayahuasca.
This was it was a combination. Is that I took that time, it was like the perfect storm of when I took that ayahuasca, when it met my stomach, when it went to digest, my intestine twisted shut. So if the intestine snaps, you're septic and you're dead. That's why the doctor said that I was within an hour of my life in all likelihood, because after 20 hours of purging, I just like reached that point, and it was actually an IV of fentanyl that was able to relax me. But the thing is that I say this, like, despite having this experience, what happened to me is like 1 in, I don't know how many tens of thousands, I can't remember, but it's extremely rare. I still recommend it to like most people because I found my other experiences helpful. Even that experience was helpful in its own way. But, you know, I don't know. I don't treat it I
kind of would equate it a little bit to like Amanita muscaria and some of the stories where you would eat it direct and then you get sick and you have to throw up and you purge and everything. But then if you just drink the urine of an animal or a person that did it, then they've already purged the toxins out. And obviously that's not how you would still do it now. Now you can just go into a lab, or there's other ways that you can break it down.
There's nothing wrong with the ayahuasca that I took. I was in a group. Oh, but what I was going to say is this is one of the things that I hated was every time I would do it with a group, we're in silence for almost the entire night. I'm laying on my back, like flat, like just like going along this experience. And then in the morning, they have us like get into a circle and talk about our experience.
Yeah, I hate all of that. It's just like
hippy dippy. Don't do this to me. I'm trying to integrate this experience, and what is needed for me isn't to listen to these people's other experience and for me to have to be like share my experience. I'm like, this is like, I hated that. Like, not just hated, it was like, it felt like it was directly interfering with my own process of what I wanted to take with me from this. And it's just like, you know, it's like when you have an insight and then thought comes in and tries to organize it and do all this shit with it. I'm like, how can I just stay with this state of insight? Why do I have to do like just go to this place of like, now I'm gonna
and listening to them
compartmentalize it, you know? Yeah.
That's the worst thing about Peru, man, because you'll be like coming through the jungle and I haven't heard Spanish in a month, let alone English, because you're just listening to Quechua Indians, and all of a sudden you're near Machu Picchu on that train, and right in front of you are like 2 or 3 American Valley girls, and they're just like, did you like feel it? Oh my god, it felt like so, yeah, like deep.